Welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable. It's that time of the show. John Traver from Traver Connect is with us. We brought a great colleague to join the fun. Marco Zwanenburg is here. John and Marco, welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
Awesome to be back. And Ted, thanks for bringing Z. Marco, what a privilege to have you hanging with us, buddy.
Well, thank you so much, John. I really appreciate the invite, and I'm looking forward to going over some important stuff with you and Ted. And let's get the show rolling.
Without this guy and the people, his peers, where he comes from, everything else we're doing is meaningless, right? Until that job is actually finished. So it is awesome to have you sitting in. So thank you.
Thank you so much, John. I really appreciate it.
Ted,
so much relies on that technician, and Marco brings a wealth of experience, and we owe him a debt of gratitude, John, because it was 7 years ago this month, we're entering the 8th year now, that Marco twisted my arm and said, you got to do this event and get these people together for a Fixed Ops Roundtable, John. So Marco was the instigator back then and is today too.
Well, Marco, great vision, and Ted, nice job listening and executing, and it takes all of us. I'm just so glad to see that voice represented so well. So, Ted, what is this, number 32, buddy?
We're at 32, John Traver. Yes.
You look younger than you did when we started.
I don't know. I don't know about that.
I mean, there's one of us that looks younger, and it's not me. So that's unbelievable. So I don't know how you do it, but send it my way, please.
Looking good, John. John Traver, the show is yours.
Awesome, my friend. Ted, thanks for having us back. It is an absolute pleasure to be here. Now, listen, this time I'm going to start in a weird place for Fixed Ops. We're going to talk about earthquakes. And we're going to do it under the theme of the customer experience. I think the thing about earthquakes, if you build a house in California, there's a chance of earthquakes. And, if you've been around and you know anything about it, you're going to fortify that house to make sure that in the event of an earthquake, it stays standing or has a good chance of standing. What's wild is when you think about customer experience, guys, every earthquake has the same sort of association. Every earthquake that's ever happened has one thing in common. It has a fault line. And that's its origin. That's its cause. That's its base. In customer experience, there are fault lines. And we are entering an era in automotive, specifically fixed ops, because I believe fixed ops is the engine for retention. And I think most of you that are here believe the same thing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to see if I can't illustrate this today. And what better place to start than let's go to history. Let's take a look at a few earthquakes and see if there's anything we can learn from the earthquakes that have happened. Now, I could have grabbed from dozens, right? But I just grabbed a few because our time is short. The first one is this. It was a devastating earthquake. And if you look at the picture, Ted, do you want to take a guess where we're at here? Just knowing you and trivia, you're probably going to crush it, but I put you on the spot. You want to take a guess, Ted? Where are we? This guy is unbelievable. And folks, I didn't let him cheat. 1906, San Francisco earthquake. This is the turn of the century. Remember, if you live out east where Ted is, it's more dense, right? Population starts there, works its way west. At this point, 1906, 125 years ago, population isn't as big, but it is fortified. It does have buildings, if you will, and people. But what everybody knew at that time was there was a fault line in that area. It was the San Andreas Fault. Now, geology then wasn't what it is today, but they knew it was there. And the pictures that I was able to grab of the San Andreas Fault and this earthquake are harrowing. I mean, you look at a crack in the ground like that in 1906, and you wonder what's about to happen. This was a 7.9 on the Richter. People said you could feel this from Los Angeles all the way up the coast to Oregon and into central Nevada, guys. It lasted for about 60 seconds. I got thinking about that, and there's somebody listening right now that might think, is that all? Just 60? Yeah, I think if any of us were standing on that ground, like Tully in that region, we're all thinking the exact same thing. When is this going to stop, right? 60 seconds is a long time. So the thing about this was the impact 3,000 people plus died. 250,000 people were left homeless, and the damage, over 400 million at the time. 28,000 buildings end up being razed or fall. That's about 80% of the city. You know, when I think about this, the thing about San Francisco was this visible fault everyone knew was there. It's kind of like customer experience. There are faults that we have underneath us in our operation. This isn't about ignorance. This is about being able to anticipate and know what we got to do. So I think there's a leadership lesson for every store. The problem you already know that exists can hurt you if you've learned to live with it. So we want to know what's broke, whether it's slow response times, weak handoffs, inconsistent behavior from an advisor, maybe no real follow-up. The danger in that kind of CX fault line is when it starts to feel normal. That's a problem. Okay. Let me give you the second one. The second one was offshore of North America. This one's in Haiti. It was 26 years ago or 16 years ago. And this one was devastating as well. Fault line was the Caribbean North American plate boundary for you geologists out there listening. This was a smaller quake, quote unquote, a 7 to a 7.3. But you could feel it all through Haiti, the Dominican, Cuba, Jamaica, Puerto Rico. This one lasted half the time, 30 seconds. Look at the damage. 30 seconds, a lot of rubble and a lot of lost lives. Over 300,000 people were lost. 1.5 million people in that 30-second window were homeless. What really struck me about this one, the 10 billion was huge relative to their gross domestic product, but 60% of the healthcare system was wiped out that day in 30 seconds. So, you know, when I think about where we stand, if you can't read the early signals, you walk straight into, you know, these ruptures. It's a problem. I think fixed ops has a theme here as we start to build on this. I got one more real quick, and I'm going to take you into the world of big business. Indian Ocean. The Indian plate is beneath the Burma plate. And there's all this detail, but the bottom line is it runs under the sea. Now think about this. We got things happening in our operation today that we can't quite see, but we know might be an issue. Imagine not even being able to feel it until it's too late because it's under something even deeper, like the waters of the ocean. And that's what happened here. This was in 2004. This one was 22 years ago, and this was a monster. It was 9.1 to 9.3. You might remember it. It created that seafloor uplift, right? And when you say how big was the tsunami that it created, they said the waves exceeded 100 feet tall. And the speed of the deep ocean wave was 300 to 500 plus miles an hour. It's airplane speed. I don't know what you do with that amount of water moving at that speed, except for pray. I mean, it was devastating. And of course, it goes far inland. 13 countries are affected: Indonesia, Sri Lanka, India's eastern coast, Thailand, the Maldives, Malaysia, Somalia, East Africa. So I just wanted you to see, I mean, not listing them all, but you kind of get the idea there. This one's the most chilling, guys, because everything looked calm until it didn't. And I think that happens in our businesses often. Customer pay softens. Think about that. First visit return drops. Communication scores start sliding. We talk about texting and video throughout the fort, right? And instead of treating it like a warning, we have a different response, and it's not going to be adequate. So we want to read the early signals. 250,000 people are lost. 10 to 15 billion is one of the deadliest disasters ever. So the question then, so as I'm preparing for you guys, I'm really focused on the client experience gap, because you can never be too wise in this area of business development. Real quick recap. I think there's a few clues here. Everyone knew in 1906 the fault line was there, the San Andreas. You know what kind of fault this is? This is the visible fault that we ignore. The one that we know already exists. That's the kind of fault. That's clue number one. There are some faults that exist in our fixed operation and our handling with consumers our clients, our customers that we choose to not pay attention to. That's another way of describing ignore, right? The Haiti event, you got the week. Here's the thing, this wasn't as big, but it was close to the surface, guys. And it was also close to the capital where a lot of people live. And so there are some, you see where I'm going with this. The bottom line is, this is the small number that kills you. The little number you say, well, that's not really that big of it. That's not really that bad. And all of a sudden it begins to add up. And then, of course, the Indian Ocean, everything was calm offshore, right? This one's eerie because as I read on this, they said that as the sea went out and receded because of the shift in the plates, people began to, wow, and they walked out on shore farther than they normally could without being wet. They literally were walking into danger. Guys, they had no model of risk. They didn't know what they were walking into. This is the deep fault that looks harmless. Yeah, we've tried mobile, but it costs too much money. I don't know if that's it for you, but I want to begin to apply this and show you that, guys, we get a certain amount of opportunities to get this right, to own our customer base until we don't. You follow me? So when you look at the fault lines that exist today, what I would say is, a few things. Number one, you don't always see these fault lines, right? They're going to exist in the customer's experience, what they're experiencing as they work their way to the store, through the store, and back to the street. Your service scheduling. You say, John, we have our own team. Great. Do you eat the dog food? Do you listen to what that process sounds like? Are you optimizing what's happening? We use AI. Great. Do you hear the opt-outs? Are you studying the LLM and where they're frustrated? Do you have humans involved in that process so they can opt out and get to a voice because your phones are still ringing? Incentives. Are people, the folks that interface with the consumer, are they paid to build rapport, to embrace trust? Are they excellent communicators? You see? And are they able to convey that? Do your pay plans reflect that? As Munger said, I shared this last time, Ted, show me the compensation, I'll show you the behavior, right? And then the service department culture. There are some, the Ed Roberts of the world, I think about what they've done at Beaux-Arts, and there may be some people that, maybe don't want to hear that. But the bottom line is, we all have that opportunity to build that culture. It's sort of the constant, never-ending process, as the Japanese said with Kaizen many years ago, right, Ted? When you and I bumped into each other at Toyota. I mean, it's the same thing today. That part hasn't changed. But here's where you get in trouble with CX fault lines. The belief is we're okay. And what I'm saying to you, look, as a fellow soldier in this game, we're not okay. We're not. Because when these things shift, it doesn't just affect CSI, gang. What it does is it takes out to sea our customers, our technicians, our profitability. It leaves us. Unless we're sitting there in an inner tube waiting for it to come back. I don't know, but I don't like the strategy, and I don't think you do either. Now, I've set the stage there. So now let me go into business. I'm going to go big business, and then I'm going into the service drive, okay? So big business. Can we learn anything from guys that have absolutely dropped the ball with customer experience, not thinking about what they're actually doing? John, give me some big companies that really screwed up. Okay, you got it. Thanks for asking. Ted, you want me to share that, right?
I do. And I was going to say, John, these fault lines are there today, whether we want to admit it or not, whether we see them, whether they're invisible, whether we just refuse to accept it. But it's all around us in industry. So tell us about some who missed the big mark.
Well, okay, you asked, and so we're going to deliver. I think here's the first big business quake. You got the old Blockbuster meets Netflix. Let me tell you what happened. Netflix, this is circa 2000. Netflix has this business, and they're sending DVDs by mail. Do you remember this?
I remember seeing them for the first time in airports because people could pick up their videos and drop them off in the physical, and they would mail them out. Yes. Yeah.
That's right. That's exactly right. And so they came to Blockbuster, and Blockbuster. Do you remember Friday nights? You know, Ted, it was go to Blockbuster and get a video and some popcorn and his family night.
And Marco,
Maybe
you had to go early, Marco, if you wanted to get the good movies, right?
they had all these
And
stores.
don't forget to rewind.
Yeah, I'm telling you, they had stores all over the place. I mean, it was amazing. So they show up. Let me tell you what didn't happen. So what did happen is Netflix showed up and they said, hey, it's like 2000, year 2000. They said, hey, we want 50 million for this business. Now, just so you know, that's not actually that much money, especially at that time in that space. I read story after story on Blockbuster's leadership response. And I'm embarrassed to tell you this, but it is said, even in Fortune magazine, I read the article, they said they laughed. They laughed. That's called hubris. That's what happens when we get too baked in the past and we don't pay attention to the future and the present. That's what happens when what does the customer value? We don't listen to very close. We listen to what we value more, and that'll get us in trouble. Netflix, hey, they saw the DVD by mail thing and they got locked onto that. What they didn't see, guys, was where it was going. And you know where it was going. It was going streaming. It was a matter of when. What did happen? You know, Blockbuster got quaked, but it's not because people stopped liking movies. They got quaked because the customers got an easier, faster, more convenient way to what? To watch movies. Could we apply service to that? I'm curious. It just might be happening in a store near you, right? Blockbuster filed for BK. Hey, by the way, how did Netflix do? Well, they're doing okay. They're about 400 billion a day. I shot that screen yesterday. Yeah, man. I don't ever want you guys to think I'm just spinning this stuff up, just saying this. I want you to know, like, this is real time. This is where we're at today, gang. All right. So that one's a problem. All right. Let me give you another one. Ted, you want another one? Can I give you another one? Fastball down the middle. Here's Quake 2, Kodak. Now, do you remember years ago, Ted? Probably this is show 32. That might have been show 10. But I did one on Kodak. You remember that vaguely? Okay. Okay. So what's wild about Kodak, it's one of the great business warnings because they did not miss the future, which is what I'm trying to talk about right now. They actually invented it. They buried or buried, depending on how you pronounce it, they buried this idea between 75 and 79. They patented this thing. They say around 1978. It was called the electronic still camera. I mean, unbelievable. They saw it. They were good at it. But you know, the thing is they didn't want to cannibalize all that money that was flowing in for film sales. Amen. I know. I remember. And this company started a few years earlier. I'll get to that in a second. They deprioritized digital. Is it possible that we're deprioritizing convenience? Is it possible that we're deprioritizing communication? Is it possible that we're deprioritizing anti-anxiety activity? Because the thing we know about the average consumer, when they call in, they're anxious. Can I tell you something? As a fellow peer and partner in this space serving, that works to our advantage. If we know that they're anxious, then we have a chance to do something about it, which makes what we do very important, very visible, very timely, and very valuable. You see? So the bottom line is digital was the side project. Film was the religion. See, service for years was the side department, Ted. Amen? Yeah. Yeah. Sales was the religion. That's shifted in case anybody just landed here on planet Earth, right? Warning signs, they had plenty, but they ignored them. What ends up happening by 2000s, digital gets adopted, competitors embrace digital. I mean, it's a problem. They're BK in 2012. It's a problem. By the way, I told you they existed a few years before. These guys, Kodak shows themselves 1889 to 2012, but my research shows them they originated as an organization in 1880. They became Kodak in 1882. That's when the plate business, which, right, became film eventually really was founded and Kodak evolves. My point is, you could be around a long time. Think about Tully and his group. They've been around a long time in NoCal. We can even be around a long time. If we get it wrong, it doesn't matter how long, you see. So that one was number 2. Here's the third one real quick, Borders and Amazon. And again, this is Borders makes a different mistake. Let me tell you what they did. They outsourced too much of the relationship. Outsourcing is not bad, but they outsourced the entire relationship because they were sitting on their hands from an e-commerce standpoint. Borders gets approached by Amazon. Hey, we can do e-commerce for you. Borders says, sure. And they were slow on everything, Ted. They were slow. Marco, they were even slow to ebooks. Okay. And they were in the book business. And here's what I want to show you something. While they were slow on everything, here's what Amazon's doing. The power of one word, when you can get what you do down to one word, like why you do what you do, you got something. You have the ability to just laser focus on what you're doing. This is what Amazon, this was their language. Click, buy, arrive. Uh-oh, that's hyper-focused. There's no War and Peace and, description. I mean, it's single word stuff. You're in trouble, okay? So, we know that it grows and, what happens, Amazon grows, border legs, they go BK. And I'll never forget this article, Ted. 2011, Borders to shut down remaining 399 stores. That's how the story ends when we miss the plates rubbing beneath our feet. And look, guys, without a customer, you know what we got? An expense. We got nothing. But with a customer, we have a business. That's why we started this thing, right? So real quick, geology, I mean, just think, when you think geology, you got these plates that are rubbing against each other, but you don't know it. There's stress that's happening down there, then pressure, then you got a rupture. And that rupture is a quake or something happens, and things that used to be stable are all of a sudden not stable, like buildings. That's geology. But we're not doing geology today. We're doing business. So when I jump into that, I say, okay, look, in your service department, you got customers and dealers, operating, staff, everything. Hey, we got right now today, you got people in your service lane and they're interacting with advisors. And so on the surface, it looks like everything's healthy. Quick question. Would that be a safe assumption or would that just be an assumption? Right? Okay. So there's this gap that exists. And that's what I'm working to talk about today. When trust erodes, you're going to have an issue. That's the pressure. Then you get a defection. There's no second chance then, right? CSI scores all of a sudden start to slide. So that's what the CX gap causes. Now, let me get into service now, okay? I'm just going to take you right into this. So this is the heart of the issue. The delivery gap, I think, is a space between what we believe we provide and what the customer actually experiences. And let me just say this. My intention, even at Traver Connect, is to deliver this thing that is X. Does that mean that we always deliver X? No. The key, though, is that in leading, we don't, find ourselves on hallucinogens where, we can look at it for what it is and begin to rapidly improve it. And there's only one way to do that, and that's assess. If we're talking dealership, then I would say what dealers believe, what customers experience. And here's the gap. This is Bain and Company. This is all industries, by the way, not just automotives. This is applied to automotive, okay? 80%. What do you think we're going to say? 80%, everything's great. We believe we're delivering this superior experience. Yeah, 20% of the time I know we missed, but 80%, I think it's wonderful. And what the Bain study said was actually the number is 8. And unfortunately, you know where that goes. The number of customers that actually feel. Notice it doesn't say, because some customers don't want to deal with the heat and they'll give you a decent score and they keep moving. My question is, what does the return business look like? My question is, what does customer pay as you work in year 3 through 5 look like? My question is, what happens after that initial warranty is over? What's our retention? That's how you're going to know what they're actually feeling. If they come in the first time and they don't come in the second time, my guess is the first time didn't go as planned. Does that make sense? And you go, John, that's kind of harsh. Guys, I'm on your team. Listen, What I want you to see is the gap. There's 72 points there. That's how we avoid being in the rubble. We're sitting on a space where consumers, there's something they want. These plates are rubbing. And so what we want to do is understand, like, how do I get there? What do I do? Make sense? So in our Experience Matters event, we get into fault lines, and I'm just going to give you 5 of them. So this is one of the things we get into and teach and help stores kind of identify theirs. And you're welcome to join us at one of our upcoming events if you would so choose.
Those, by the way, those are great events. They're in John's beautiful office in a suburb of Dallas. I've been there, and John leads those events like no other, and it's an experience to be had. So experience matters.
Thank you. Thank you, Ted. So we got, the first one is the intent to appointment gap. So this is real simple. We're delivering units today. This is 80 versus 23. What's the 80? 80 is 80% of new car buyers will tell you, hey, guess what? I'm coming back here for service. You know what percent actually have a service appointment scheduled before they leave? 23. Guys, we are, I would say we're starting defection literally at point of delivery.
Yeah, right. Sure.
That should be 100%. Oh, by the way, is this new, Ted? I mean,
not new, John. No,
brother, we were doing this in the 80s.
Yeah, not new.
For a fact, right? Yeah. So, you know,
that fault line's been there for a while. We just have ignored it.
Yep, that's right. That's right.
We're walking around it.
That's it. So what we want to do is celebrate process activity here, right? So that's one. The second one is, you know, and again, I just want to say we tend to overvalue what we intended and undervalue what the customer actually endured. That's what I'm trying to point out here, okay? So the second one here is the loyalty collapse. This is 72 versus 54. In the last couple of years, service loyalty among new car owners has dropped about almost 20 points, 18 points. Guys, that's a lot. That's a lot. And dealers lost 12% of service visits. I've been tracking this with you, Ted, since I've been doing the show with you, showing RO counts nationally, NADA data book. And we went from 250 to 270 to 290 to 310 to 315 to 317 million US. And after COVID, we roll back to 260. We ease our way back in the 70s. We haven't hit 300 yet in over 5 years. So what happened to all those ROs? They're not happening. And that's a CX event. That's a fault line. The third is communication fault. And so what I would say about this guy is nearly half of customers, they're going to talk about dissatisfaction, not over the repair quality, but they're going to talk about unexpected costs. I got a inbox message on LinkedIn from this gal who bought property from my wife and I 25 years ago. She's in a different market. And she's complaining because she said, John, I know you're in this space. I see you on LinkedIn. I really don't know her well. And she said, but here's what happened. She got a $28,000 bill or bid to do work on her husband's car. Her husband did. But she just complained about the communication. And I know they're extremely wealthy. And she's asking me for advice. And of course, you know, it puts me in a weird spot, and it's a big group. And so I try to give her good advice, but this one right here is sticking out. It's the communication basically dilutes the trust, right? Next one is this. It's fix it right the first time. We got Marco sitting here and comebacks, right? So we know how important this is. The bottom line is, if it's 10, 12% that aren't fixed right the first time, the loss rate there is typically 50%. And I'm going to talk about why in just a sec. Ultimately, when we lose a customer, I need you guys to have the number 12 grand in your head.
Yes. We're hearing that number a lot now, John. Yes.
Good. Then we're aligned. Every lost customer is about 12 G's. Yep. And so you start adding those up, and that's revenue that won't be there. That's gross margin that won't be there. That if we go find it and buy it and pay for it and acquire it and get it back in, and then we get to start at the little $70 RO and work our way back up.
Sure.
We're still where we would have been anyway.
Yeah.
That's painful, right? Like I don't want to do that. So it's more, I would just say this, when a customer disappears, it's not just a lost RO, it's lifetime revenue leak. And I think what customers are really saying on the defection stuff, where it's not fixed right the first time, it's not, can they repair my car? It's, can I trust these people? That's what they're asking. But if we communicate well, we can overcome most of those. When it's not fixed right the first time, I also think it's not a mechanical issue, it becomes an emotional issue. And I'm not trying to be soft. I'm just trying to show you so you can uncover this and figure this out. Make sense? Okay. So how do we monitor this thing? Well, data. Seismic for real earthquakes in your dealership, your seismograph is going to be your data. So what kind of data, John? So I got a little bit of application for you here. We're going from geology straight into running shops. The key here is you don't lack warning signs, in my opinion. The key is too often we treat these early tremors that I'm going to list out here like background noise. Guys, these are tremors. Okay, got it? So the first one, drop. You have a drop in customer paid RO count. Can you quantify that, Ted? Is that measurable in every store? Absolutely. So when they become post-warranty and they're leaving quietly for independence, hello, that is a tremor. So you say, John, what do? You got to have a due for service campaign system set up where you have a methodology where we're reaching out. And we do that before we get to 3 to 5 years. There should be an engine that starts from day one. Okay. Value anchored maintenance specials. What I mean by that is those of you that have your own people calling, they got to have some worm on the hook. Complimentary inspection offers do help. Ask Sarah, she ran the BDC there, right? For the whole group. I mean, anybody that's done this will tell you, give me a little something to work with. You know what I mean? Give me some butter for the pan so I don't burn the food. Whatever your analogy is, the bottom line is, guys, this is a very important part of what we're doing. 2 is, I'm going to speed this up, but your first visit return rate, like I said earlier, if they come in for that first $70 RO, and I know that's not exciting, but look, if you don't have the first one, you won't have the second, third, or fourth. So we'll take the first, right? So that experience is not earning a second visit. And you go, well, how do I fix that? Well, start by auditing the write-up process. Take a look at it. Survey your first timers within 24 hours of being there. How did we do? What do we need to be working on? What could we improve on? What did we do well that you want to make sure we keep doing? Like that. And then, by the way, the people doing it, they need to be retention-focused people, right? The next one is advisor greeting compliance. This is saying hello. Ted, I often will say, you cannot not communicate. No matter whether you don't say, if I send you a text and you don't respond to me, you must be busy, or you're upset at me, or I don't know. But the bottom line, when someone rolls up, we cannot not communicate with them. We have to greet them because that's the minimum. By the way, JD Power, CSI, this is a top driver being missed. Like that's a layup. So these would be standards. And real quick on standards, remember, standards are a minimum. So manager walkthroughs, you want to tie advisor performance and pay back to this stuff. Next one, fix it right the first time, right? We want the errors to be small. So pre-repair checklist, what's causing that? Track the first time fix rate by tech, by RO type. Marco, would you agree with that?
Oh, absolutely, John. Absolutely.
Yep. And then parts availability. How often does parts availability tie in there, Marco?
I'd say about a good 50% of the time, especially in today's market with the global sourcing of parts. It can be a disaster to get the right part at the right time.
Bingo. So, and then CSI communication scores, when you see those declining, remember, generation to generation, you're always going to lose a little bit of trust just because there's no trust established yet. And what you can do to bridge that gap is use texting and use video. Those have shown an improvement in trust and awareness, okay? So real quick, I want to close this out with a few thoughts. So number one, I think if you're going to be a high-performing shop under the theme of business development, under improving your CX, your overall customer experience, you're addressing the fault lines that exist. Number one, you constantly got to be assessing. Like there's got to be a little bit of paranoia to you. Just no matter how good you are, just think about that day where the earth moves and you'll constantly get better. Okay. 2, you got to reinforce early, man. Don't wait. Yesterday was too late. Do we start now? Start now. John, it's not organized. Start now and polish it, right? So example, activate first appointments. Could we get that going next week where that's like religion? Yes, then do it, right? 2, convenience. Wherever you can implement convenience, the answer should be yes. Any of these stores that are excelling, guys, that's what they're doing, okay? If you're going to get radical, you know what I get radical about? Transparency. You say, well, how would I do that? Well, I start with this belief. I have no reason to expect blind trust from the customer. We want to earn that over. Sir, Mr. Ings, here's what we found. I'm going to send you some pictures of the tire. If I were you, I recommend, I'm going to send you, here's the leak. And I think we got a couple ways we can approach this, but blind trust, no bueno. And that's what happened with that gal that reached out to me. They couldn't see the reasoning. They just saw the bill. Does that make sense?
Marco, I'm thinking about all these electronic tech pictures that Kodak missed out on. So there you go.
Yeah, buddy. Yes. And then communication. I think, communication, you don't want to just have standards. You want to have elite standards. Elite. And you have to demonstrate that. You got to hire for that. And it should never, ever be optional. I think, if you allow it to be substandard, that will be your standard, right? And lastly, Ted, is you want to be a life cycle thinker. And I'm not talking about getting on a bike and riding the Pan American Highway here, okay? I'm talking about fixed ops is not a side department. It's not. It's the retention engine, my friend.
That's it.
It's the retention engine. So, this is the canary in the coal mine, this CX stuff, Ted. What a pleasure it is to be able to do the fort with you guys and talk about something that we're so passionate about here at Traver. Our team is passionate about, and that's making the experience matter for your customer, for you as our dealer partner, for this industry, with people that are wired in a way who can and will. Always a pleasure, Ted. Thanks for having us.
Everyone, you see the phone number on the screen and the email. John Traver at Traver Connect holds these workshops in his office several times a year. I believe there's one coming up a little bit later this summer. You want to attend that, reach out to the Traver team here and be a part of that. And by the way, if you have questions on any of these business development steps, John Traver and his team are the very best in the industry. And my friend for a long, long time. It's got to be going on 40 years now, John. So
we're knocking on the door, buddy. Yeah.
Marco, and look how important all this plays into fixed ops being the engine of that dealership.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely, and that's nothing new. It always has been, and it always will be. It's just now we're just finally starting to wake up to that fact. As usual, we are reactive instead of proactive.
I'm afraid you're right, brother. It is. We are in a window of time right now. If I had to predict that I don't know if it's 3 to 5 years, but you're in a space now of haves and have-nots being formed when it comes to CX. And if you pay attention, you look at the haves, you'll see most of what I just talked about is present. Like they've either weeded out the stuff that was holding them up, or they've implemented the stuff like convenience that is going to move them forward. It's time. Let's go.
The time is now, everybody.
Yeah.
Marco Zwanenburg and John Traver from Traver Connect. TraverConnect.com. Reach out to them on the web. John, a huge part of everything we do here at Fixed Operations. John Traver, thank you for all you do for the industry, and Marco as well.
My privilege, Ted. Thank you.
Everybody, Traver Connect here with us today on the Fixed Ops Roundtable.